He's mine. This is my fight. Got it?
Alright, this is from the Berserk series. It's kind of hard to tell. I'm having a hard time. The glare that comes in from the light makes it really hard to kind of see what you're looking at here. But this is basically a Figma figure of Casca from the Berserk series. And you can see her there. Isn't she cute? She is, I got her picture around here. And then a couple of the really cool poses that you could eventually put her in. And these are, I think they're supposed to be based more off the films. If you have not read Berserk, you should. It's really cool, but it's like 37 volumes, so if you're not going to do that, you can watch the anime. It covers the first arc, the Golden Age arc, which is pretty much everyone's favorite arc. And then if you want to watch the movies more or less cover the same arc. Okay, so let's go ahead and open this. Okay, so before we take a look at Casca herself, let's just go ahead and take a look at some of her accessories. She doesn't come with too much, but she comes with enough, I guess, for her anyways. I would have really liked it if she would have came with a crossbow that she uses in her very first fight with Guts. But she doesn't, and that's really too bad. Well, first she comes with this little cape, and obviously it's removable, and it is a very soft plastic, so it's not too tough. And it has a little peg hole there for if you're going to use a little flight stand. Then she comes with her alternate face, so it's like her angry face, if this thing will focus on it. Okay. No, that's her angry face, which is probably what I'm going to end up having her use most of the time. And then she comes with her helmet, which has like her hair and the rest of her neck in there, but I like the feather on the back. Really nice detail on it as well. I really like the detail of the helmet. You see the rivets in the metal. It's a very nice paint job. Looks very metallic. And then she comes with her sword, which is also very nice. I do kind of feel like I'm going to break it a little bit. Then she comes with a flight stand, which is just, so that you can make it look like she's jumping or, whatever. So you have these things. And then here's the, the base. And then you have her collection of hands, because this is a Japanese figure. So she has some open hands and then some grabbing hands, different kinds of grabbing hands. I don't know, I feel like she has more hands than she really necessarily needs. But, whatever, cool. It works. And then, of course, Figma gives you like a little Ziploc bag so you can keep all these accessories in. I don't actually need this, or I never feel like I need this stuff. But that they included is really nice. It's a nice touch. Okay, here she is. I swapped out her more docile face for her angry, aggressive, going into battle face. And I really like how she came out. I don't know. I know she didn't come with as many accessories, but still, I really like what they did with her. So, if you want to take a look at the articulation, she her wrist, swivels around, and of course it also has a hinge on it, and then at the end of her glove, it also swivels. And then her elbow is this little ball joint that also kind of has its own swivel. And then, of course, you can bend it. And then her shoulder is a ball joint as well, but it doesn't move up too much because this little piece of armor kind of gets in the way, so she can't lift her arm all the way up like that, which makes sense, I guess, because I guess her armor would be a little restrictive. But other than that, pretty standard fare. Her head moves left and right, of course, and it moves up and down. Not a whole lot, but like a little bit. She has an ab crunch, so she can kind of rock her diaphragm around, or whatever, or her rib cage. But this little piece in the middle, this is a separate piece, so it moves with her, so it doesn't really restrict her movement. And I really like that. I really think that came out really good. I think that's a really cool thing that they did with her armor, and so she can move her waist around as well because of that. With her legs, they move out fairly far. I'm not sure what you would need to have her in this pose in for. Her sheath kind of restricts the movement on that side a little bit, and it's not removable. This part of her shirt, it's like a soft plastic, basically, like the same as her cape. So it does kind of bend and allow you to move her legs and so on. So it doesn't really get in the way too much, but her legs don't move forward like that far forward, and they don't really move that far backwards either. I don't know, that doesn't seem like a big deal to me. And then here at her boot, she also has like a hip swivel. I like that. And then she has just like a bald knee joint, not like double jointed, but that's okay because I don't really like double jointed knees that much. I think they look kind of weird. And the ankle also has a hinge and can move up and down, but you can rock it side to side. But her spurs kind of sort of get in the way a little bit of moving it up and down, and you want to be careful not to break these because spurs, that's a big deal. I mean, for these characters, Casca and Guts, they're like cavalry. They ride horses, so I like that they have spurs on their boots.
Why, you little bitch!
And that was for my horse.
Here's her alternate head in her helmet, and you can see that there is this little seam around here. So the helmet is actually two pieces, and that's actually part of her actual design. So you just remove the top part of the helmet with these little bits that clip in, and then you remove the hair as usual. It's a Japanese figure, so removing the front part of the hair is pretty standard. And then you just have the face, and then you just take off the face, and then you can just see like the things that the little pegs or whatever, and then she has her whole, well, the back of her head in there and her neck joint. And you can take that whole thing out though if you want to have just the helmet by itself. Okay, so let's just take off Casca's head. That's a little disturbing. Okay, let's put on the her cape is removable and all that, of course. So let's leave her cape on, and then swap out her head, and there you go. I like the sculpt of both of these faces. Okay, so here she is, ready to go into battle, and I gotta say I'm really happy with this figure. I really like it. Casca is one of my favorite female characters in any anime, and I really like that they chose to go with this particular costume out of all the ones that they could have done. And I really like the attention to detail, and I know her design isn't overly complicated. It's actually pretty simple. Her armor's not too intricate or anything, but still little things. The rivets on the helmet, or these rivets, or whatever you want to call them, that she has, like on her glove, and just the overall paint job and everything. I really like what they did. If I had to have any complaint, it's that she's a little light skinned. Where that's because of the movies. The movies kind of lightened Casca up a little bit when she was actually fairly dark in the anime. But They lightened her up for the films. I think she got a little darker with like the second film, but for whatever reason they decided to do that. She's certainly nowhere near as dark in the films as she was in the anime. So that's maybe a small complaint, I guess, but that has nothing to do with Figma. But everything else, the little badge on her cape, again, all of her armor, and you know, all of the leather straps and stuff, you know, the buckles on that and everything. And for me, I really like this because there aren't very many Berserk figures. As long running as it is and as popular as it is, you think there'd be tons of figures, but there's not really. So it's really nice. And then you have like this rope around the boots, and you can see like the creases in the leather from where it's tied around her leg, stuff like that. And then of course you can see like the stitching of her pants, and that's just tiny little details that I just really appreciate. And even the way the spurs look, as I said, these are horse riders, and so it just makes sense for them to have spurs. Even the sheath, you know, it's simple, but yeah, I like that the straps on it and little chains and stuff. It's too bad it's not removable, but that's not really like that's not a big deal for me or anything like that. I think she looks great. I'm really in love with this figure. And I would totally recommend watching Berserk or reading Berserk or watching the films. At least watch the films. So now let's talk a little bit about Casca as a character. When she's first introduced, which is fairly early on, she's presented as a very strong and capable character. Essentially, she rescues Corcus from Guts. Corcus decided he was going to fight Guts, not a smart move, and Griffith orders Casca to go in and save him. And so she starts to put up a fight against Guts, which kind of takes Guts a little bit by surprise. And also the fact that she's a woman.
Bastard!
But eventually Guts does start to get the upper hand. It puts Casca on the defensive. But what happens is that the other members of the Band of the Hawk are like surprised. Like this shows how strong Guts is, because they're like, none of us can beat Casca. Like this guy's like going toe to toe with Casca. None of us can do that. That means no one in the Band of the Hawk, not Judo, you know, not like no one is up to snuff to fighting Casca, I guess. And they say except for Griffith. So that means basically Griffith is number one. Of course, he's the leader and all that. And that makes Casca number two. And Guts becomes number one. And then Griffith becomes number two. And that makes Casca number three fighter or whatever. That's how I see it. Anyways. So she loses her footing in this battle. And it's like Guts is going to kill her. And then she's rescued at the last second by Griffith. And this is where you might, or some people seem to start to have a problem with Casca, because it seems like she always needs to be saved or rescued. That's something like, you know, like she's a damsel in distress. But I feel like that's not entirely true. It's really hard to explain. And maybe I'm going to just be cutting the show and, you know, everything just too much slack. But for me, I don't mind damsel in distress stuff when it makes sense, because everyone gets into bad situations. You know, even when you shouldn't, you just find yourself in a bad way. And you know, like if for whatever reason, like if you had Casca fighting Nosferatu Zod, someone would have to save her, because there's no way Casca can fight Zod. So something like that would make sense to me. Casca fighting just like a normal soldier, no, she should not need to be rescued or anything like that. So Casca fighting Guts, of course Griffith will have to save her, because there's no way that Casca can beat Guts. So that makes sense in that moment. And so I don't have a problem with that, but it happens fairly often throughout the series, and I think part of that comes down to the fact that Casca is like one of the only females in, you know, if you watch the anime, she's practically the only one. There's a princess and the queen, I guess, that kind of sort of have, well, they're important, but I mean, they don't get a lot of screen time. Just looking at Casca, she might as well be the only female character. So I think a lot of stuff just kind of defaults to her. Like if someone's gonna get rescued, well, then I guess who else are they gonna use but Casca? I don't know. So I guess maybe I cut it a lot of slack. But if you wanted to just take the moments in which she's rescued, she or in this fight, she's rescued by Griffith from Guts, which is understandable because there's no way she can beat Guts. Guts is too strong. And then later she's rescued by Guts from an enemy, Adon. And this is like, okay, she shouldn't need to be rescued at that point in time. Like, she should be able to handle Adon. The thing about it is that at that point in time, Casca's on her period.
No, not now.
And being a man, I don't know too much about a woman's menstrual, cycle and stuff like that. So I don't know how bad a period can really lay someone out. I know that like some girls handle it better than others. Some girls get like really severe cramps and they'll even like throw up and stuff like that. Whereas other girls, not a big deal. I don't know. I guess Casca's period hits her pretty hard, and this is a time there's no medicine. Like there's no pills for her to take or anything like that. So there's that, and it's like she's feverish. She's not at 100%, and she's in the middle. She goes into battle anyways, and so I guess that's where you're supposed to cut her some slack by not being able to fight Adon, who, despite his kind of comic relief standing, is actually fairly strong. So she's rescued by Guts, and later she's attacked by 3 guys in the forest, and they try to rape her. She does rescue herself in that moment, but they get the upper hand. Again, she's outnumbered 3-1. She was already fatigued, and she was probably running like full sprint through the forest. So by the time they caught up with her, she probably did not have the stamina to fight 3 of them. And so then she is rescued by Judo at that point. And so again, it's like, she shouldn't need to be rescued by regular soldiers, but I would say in these instances there's extenuating circumstances because she is at a disadvantage. Later when she fights Adon one-on-one, she tells no one to get involved, even though her men totally would, because again, Casca is a commander. She leads like 1,000 men, and she tells them not to get involved, and she fights Adon one-on-one, and of course she defeats him. So the only reason she needed rescuing from Guts before was because she wasn't feeling well. Again, her period and so on. And you could have a problem with that, like, oh, come on, man, just because she's on her period, you're telling me her woman troubles are keeping her from being a soldier. And it's like, well, yeah, kind of they are. It's not told maybe in the best way. Maybe, maybe it could have been presented better. But I feel like I got to cut it some slack. Not everyone's just like an amazing writer. You just have to, like, I think, try and focus more on the theme or the point that was trying to get across, even if it wasn't told in the best way. And for me with Casca, it's that it's very hard for her to lead the life that she does, but as a woman. And she'll kind of bring this up like every now and then. She'll say that she never asked to be a woman, or she'll find that when she does have to do something womanly, I guess, like wear a dress, that she doesn't fit in. She feels more comfortable, in battle, or that she's gotten so muscular and stuff, she doesn't really fit into a dress, and it's hard for her to be both a woman and a soldier, and she does mention stuff like that she can't be a woman. If you go to her origins, essentially, she lived in a very poor village, and the village was attacked by bandits and whatever. People would starve to death, people would be murdered, and this happened so frequently that Casca, even as a little girl, this is just what she accepted. She just figured, well, I guess this is how the world is. I guess this is what life is. Like, how sad is that? That's the conclusion she came to. And eventually her family's like, they sell her to a nobleman. And even then, she doesn't seem like she's sad. It's like she understands why. Because she's a little girl. She can't help in the fields and stuff like that the way she could if she was a boy, if she was, stronger. So she can't contribute very much to her family, while at the same time being another mouth to feed. And so the fact that her family sells her, it it just makes sense to her. Like, yeah, of course, I guess this is how it is. So it's almost like at this young age she learns two things. A, the world is a very harsh and violent place. And B, that it's no place for a girl. And then I suppose shortly afterwards she learns a third lesson. So be C, men just want to use you, or they just want you for your body. They lust for you. They want to have sex with you. So that's kind of, I think that's kind of a lot to put on the shoulders of a little kid. But eventually, she does find strength and all of that, and she attributes basically all of the strength and such that she gains to Griffith. And this is why she becomes so in love with him. So her being rescued, it might make it seem like she's weak, but no, it's just that's the thing with Casca. She's presented as being strong, and then she's presented as being weak. So while you have these moments where she's rescued time and again, maybe at least 4 or 5 times throughout the course of the Golden Age arc that the anime covers, these like 25 episodes. At the same time, there's also all these instances of the show saying how strong she is, or like Guts trust her, like with his life. She's a strong warrior, and so on. Her men all respect her. They all, worry about her. They all look up to her. Uh, Griffith, acknowledges how important both her and Guts are, and that they are crucial members of the Band of the Hawk, and he needs them in order to achieve his goals. So there'll be things like that, or they'll show that she can handle different operations in battle and so on. She can be trusted to do stuff when towards the end, when the Band of the Hawk is basically getting destroyed. It's Casca who takes up command and leads everyone. She's the one that saves everyone, and then she starts leading the Band of the Hawk from that point onwards. So I don't think that the series tried to portray her as weak on purpose. I think that was more like something that just happens, that's like incidental, and it depends on whether you want to focus on that or not. Like, oh, she's in the middle of battle and she loses her sword or something. It's like, dude, come on. How can you be a soldier when you're going to lose your weapon? But then right afterwards, she disarms, her enemy and kills them with his sword. And she does this to Adon. Well, it's silly that she would lose her own sword. She loses her sword only then to show how cool she is in taking the enemy's sword and using it against him. I don't think they mean to show her as weak, even though some things really do put her off as seeming like, she's weak or because she's a woman. Then at the same time, they really do kind of go out of their way to show how strong she is. So maybe it's just not handled in the best way. And so it's actually something that endears Casca to me, in that it seems like she's just out of place. It's just hard for her to lead the life that she leads as a woman, and it's just, she can't be a little girl in her village. She has to get sold off. She becomes a soldier. She excels at that, but things she wants, like she has two dreams. Her ultimate dream is she wants to be Griffith's woman. She's in love with him. She wants him to love her back. And it she does come to realize that that's just never going to happen. That Griffith is not going to love her the way that she loves him. So she can't be his woman. And in that she settles. She settles for, then, well, if I can't be his woman, I'll be his sword. That's what she considers herself, to be like his right hand, this instrument, this tool that helps him achieve his goals. It's like she'll settle for that. Like that will be good enough for her. And that gets taken away from her when Guts shows up, because Guts is so strong, and Griffith starts to really rely and depend on Guts. So Guts essentially becomes Griffith's sword. So it's hard for Casca, even when everything's basically over, like it's done. She leads the band of the Hawk, like she just doesn't, if she doesn't know what to do. She says it herself that if she's not a Hawk, then what is she? What else is there? Like, what's left? She would just disappear. There'd be nothing. She just can't seem to find her place, and she says that, she says, I can't be a woman, and I can't be special to anyone. It's like she just doesn't fit in this world, and I just think that that's kind of a sad thing about her, and it just makes me really feel for her. And so when she realizes that she starts to fall in love with Guts, it's kind of a big deal. It's kind of a big deal, it's a big deal to me anyway, because she loved Griffith for so long, and now all of a sudden it's like, wait, but now she loves Guts? That must feel, confusing, or you feel like, it's like you're betraying the person you loved first, or you're betraying yourself, because now you realize you're having feelings for someone else. And have you ever been in a relationship and stuff like that? It is kind of difficult when you think you're with someone and it's just like you love them, but then you realize you do have the capacity to love other people. If we didn't, then we'd only have one relationship ever, and then you broke up, you would never be able to be with anyone ever again. And well, it feels like that for a time. After a while, you realize that you can love someone else. And so she didn't plan on falling in love with Guts, and Guts certainly didn't try and seduce her or anything like that. If anything, he always pushed her to keep, trying to hook up with Griffith. So when Guts acknowledges his feelings for her, and she gives into her feelings for him, it's like, oh man, this is so great. It's such a cool, I don't know, I feel really happy for her. And this is where the show starts to get super depressing, because it's like, man, everything seems like it's working out. This is what I wanted. And that's one of the interesting things. And her name, Casca, which I think is Portuguese, it means shell. And it's just like, that's kind of what she becomes, a shell of her former self. The series has such a dramatic ending, and it's so, for me, it's really depressing as a Casca fan. And I mean, I know it's not like she dies or anything, but she is severely traumatized, and then she loses all her memories. She loses all her memories, and then she really does become a shell, because it's like all of a sudden she acts like she's a child or something. It's like she becomes Princess Yorda from Eco or something like that. And I want so bad for her to have a happy ending after everything she's been through. It's just like, from the moment she was a kid, her life has just been hard, and there's just been like nothing. The moments where she's happy, they seem super brief. For me, I really hope that something good happens with her. I think she's a really good character. Again, maybe she wasn't handled in the best way, and it's like she's always thrown into these situations, like she's gonna get raped, and I guess it's just because that's just done so you can be like, oh no, hurry Guts, save her, whatever. It's just to create tension. But it's like, shit, man, does everyone have to try and rape her? Like, how many times do people try and do this to her throughout the whole thing? Like kind of a few times. You think if it happens once, it's like, okay, well, you know, that's enough. Why does she have to be like tortured over and over again? And it just makes it really difficult. I don't know. For the most part, I think that Casca's a really, really great character. Her look, her design, her integrity, her pride, all these things, even when she's being stubborn or being unreasonable or whatever, all of these things that make up who she is, I really like. But with Berserk, I guess you got to take the good with the bad, because there is some bit in the writing that's just like, what the fuck is this, dude? But then there's other parts that are really, really good. And so Berserk is definitely worth checking out in all of its forms, whether it's the films or it's the anime or it's the manga. It's just a very engaging story. As far as the character goes, Casca is really awesome, and as far as the Figma goes, I think they did a really great job. And so I would recommend anyone picking these up. But anyways, and while I don't think I've ever in any video at any point in time told anyone to like rate and subscribe and like and comment and blah blah blah, maybe I've just taken for granted that everyone on YouTube knows how YouTube works. But as far as this video is concerned, if you like this sort of thing, like I could do more of this stuff. I could talk more about Berserk. I could talk more about other anime. I can talk more about other action figures if that might be something you would like. I know there's plenty of toy reviewers out there, and they have much better cameras than I do and much better setups. And because of that, even though I wanted to do some other toy reviews, I decided not to. Even though I recorded them, I was like, I scrapped them. But I just really wanted to do this particular review for Casca, and I will do, at the very least, I will do Guts, like Band of the Hawk Guts. I will do that version, and we'll talk a little bit more about Berserk overall, and then we can focus on the main character. But yeah, if you took the time to watch this whole thing, let me know what you think. I really appreciate it. And until next time, I'll see you later.